G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome back to another video, and here we go with the next round of Toyota GR GT Cup for 2021. We are at Mount Panorama driving the brand new 2021 model Toyota GR86. So we're at Mount Panorama. Last time we had a sport mode event at Mount Panorama, I put it on pole position driving my Group 4 Toyota 86 in the Manufacturers Series. I think it was an exhibition series at the time, but nevertheless, I still poled the boy, and that's a pretty big highlight for me. So let's see if I can replicate that, because we're back at Mount Panorama, and you may have seen the video I put out yesterday without too much fanfare around it. I just popped it up there, and that was a top 10 time trial lap, so I was very happy to be able to achieve a top 10 time trial lap in Oceania region, not in the world. That'd be pretty amazing, but I was able to achieve a very quick lap around here in this car, so let's see if I can actually replicate that in qualifying. So let's have a go and have a look and point out the markers that I'm using. So looking on the right hand side, the apex sign just after the 100 meter board hanging up on the right was my braking marker for turn 1. Keeping in third gear to try and avoid some clunky gear changes there and get on the power as early as possible using the full width of the track. Heading up towards Mountain Straight, the gear change here is actually quite important because you want to do it just as you head over the top of the crest. Just as the car goes light, chuck it up into 5th, and then when the car begins to start to go downhill, it will accelerate better. Looking on the left hand side, just on the end of the access road after the 100 meter board for turn 2, Griffin's Bend. Heading up the hill towards the cutting. Very difficult braking zone this, because you can't really straight line it. We're going to turn it in and very gently get on the brakes just on the shadow that the tree casts on the inside to turn 3. Use all the camber of turn 4 and get on the power as early as you can. Keep it in third so there's not too much wheel spin there, so you can get on the power very early. Turning in to the Reed Park, Sulman Park section. It's all actually flat out here. Heading down towards the Frog Hollow or the Great, and then this corner is still flat out, heading up along John Hinksman Vista, turning in just on the Marshall and turning up and then changing up to 5th. And did you see the sort of oversteer I got there? I was able to keep that flat, braking very gently just under the Audi R8 sign, and then trying to just modulate that brake. We want to be able to only do 100% braking when the car's straight, and then come back to 50 when you have to go through the turns down the hill. Very difficult section, but it's been a good lap so far. And then braking just on the start of the blue on the right hand side for Forest Elbow. We keep it in third to try and keep our average speed up. We actually get the throttle down okay, maybe a little bit wide through Forest Elbow. But nevertheless, it's still a decent run as we head down Conrod Straight. We've got a very awkward gear change coming up again, but in a similar fashion to Mountain Straight, we're going to be changing up the gear just as we crest this hill, changing up to 6th, and then we're going to get better acceleration in 6th down the hill. Coming in towards the chase, just touch that curve and we're braking just on the V of the sign event sign after the 200 meter board. Chuck it into the chase, chuck it into turn 21, and you can keep the car the car's speed up quite high because you kind of slide it through the corner. Coming up towards Murray's Corner, braking just after the 100 meter board. It's a little bit tighter than turn 1 because you don't have an extra bit of tarmac runoff on the exit. We get the car pulled up nicely. It's been a very decent lap, to be fair. Come across the line at 232.6. We've beat Ranger Oz and Schnickerman by 6 tenths and 8 tenths respectively. However, there are some very quick drivers still yet to come across the line, but I'll take a provisional pole position. By the end of the session, we actually were overtaken by some of the usual suspects, to be fair. Obviously, amazing hour I was expecting. Noodles, I was honestly expecting to qualify ahead of me, and then you've got Ridwan, who's generally quicker, and Tazar, who does appear to be a little bit quicker than me on raw pace, but on the race pace, he's pretty similar. But ultimately, 4th, I will take that in this kind of lobby. You know, I should be able to expect sort of a mid top 10 qualifying spot, maybe 5th, 6th or 7th. I'll take it top 10 is probably where I should be sitting, but honestly 4th, I think it's my best qualifying of this series, and it's really cool. So obviously Mount Panorama seems to be the one track where I can actually put in the qualifying time that I need to be putting in. I seem to always not be able to sort of match my time trial ability in a qualifying session in these sort of sport mode races. But we'll move on. Very good qualifying, and let's see if we can translate that into the race result. Unfortunately for me, 4th position on the grid is on the outside of turn 1, and that just invites Noodles to head up the inside there, so I have lost a position off the start, but I honestly did not expect Noodles to be able to stay behind me for the whole race. I did expect him to put a lot of pressure on me and perhaps even pressure me into an error, so I think it's probably a blessing in disguise that he's just got that move done immediately, because it perhaps just releases some pressure on me. But at the start of this race, we are on the harder of the 3 tyre compounds available, so it's a little bit of an interesting strategy. This one, you've got sports, hard, medium, soft tyres all available, so you use your sports soft in quali and time trial. But in the race, the pit stops are so long that you really want to avoid the pit stop at all costs, and the only required tyre is the hard. Therefore, for a no stop, while also meeting the tyre requirements, you have to do a no stop on the sports hard tyres, if I can actually not twist all my words together and get it out correctly. But that means it's a very yucky strategy. It's a no stop on very slippery tyres, and having done all the practice on the softs, the massive grip difference that you get when you move from soft to hard, so you skip the middle tyre compound, it really just invites drivers to make mistakes, and that's what we're going to try and avoid. But basically, in this particular race, I've got a lot of pressure from Ranger Oz behind, and then behind him is Schnickerman. I'm not really sure what exactly a goal position for this race would be, but I think it would just be to have a nice clean race and not lose too many positions. We're almost looking up the inside of Tazar coming into Forest Elbow, but he gets the move done, and I've now also got another car on my left hand side. That's Ranger Oz coming through, because I had a compromised line thanks to Tazar coming through Forest Elbow, and then behind the two of us, myself and Ranger Oz going side by side, we do have Schnickerman behind, and Tazar moves across and gives Ranger Oz the slipstream, which is at my detriment because I'm not able to get into the toe, and I'm just losing speed down the straight, but I managed to slot in. Coming into the braking zone, I'm going to go into the back of Ranger Oz, and I had no idea Schnickerman was on the outside there, and there's been contact between us, and he spins around. Oh man, I was just gutted for him, because it really did feel like that was my fault. We'll have a look at the replay at the end of the race. We're just going to follow the action for now, but we will have a look at the replay of that incident, because it was quite touch and go. My thought at the time is, I had no idea he was there. Was it just a nose on the inside? In which case, probably shouldn't have really happened in terms of Schnickerman maybe putting his car in a poor position, but again, I hit the brakes a little bit later than Ranger Oz and had to move over to the right to kind of avoid hitting the back of Ranger Oz, and maybe that could be classified as moving in the braking zone. But nevertheless, I think Schnickerman's replay angle will probably tell a little bit more of the story regarding that incident, but we will, unfortunately for Schnickerman, have to move on and continue with the action at the top of the field. So I've got Tazar and Ranger Oz directly ahead of me, and all through sort of the practice for this sort of combination in lobbies with other drivers, I met myself on track with Tazar, so it kind of worked out to be that I was going to work together with Tazar for whatever reason that may be, but at this stage in the race there's no point fighting with every driver behind you. I think it's quite important to try and find yourself a buddy in these sort of longer no-stop races where there's no strategy to try and make overtakes. You've really got to keep your car in the best position possible to try and capitalise on mistakes further up the field, and the best way to do that is to avoid fighting. And when you're on track close quarters with other cars like this, it is very, very easy to lose time very quickly. But if you can find yourself a buddy to try and work together with, to try and not defend from or try to attack, you will find yourself lapping as a pair a lot quicker than maybe you would be if you were fighting. So it's important to find yourself a driver that you can trust and that trusts you back, because you are going to get very close at the end of the straights, but the key to working together is trusting each other in the pair that you're not going to go for the move at the corner even when the move is possible, because it's just not worth losing a load of time at the start of the race. Unfortunately for me, I make a bit of an error in the S's and just fall off the back of Tazar maybe an extra tenth than I should be, but Ranger Oz is also driven away from Tazar a little bit. So coming down towards the chase, we are in the slipstream, so we are going to have to be careful in the braking, but not close enough to go for a move. Even so, I still want to work together with Ranger Oz at this point because we've still got a long way to go. Still good 7 and a bit laps or so of the race to go. So we are going to try and work together with Tazar to try and make inroads up the field a little bit. I think at this stage you can see Noodles is gapping Ridwan a little bit, who was actually right on the front of Ridwan at one point in the previous lap. So Noodles is quite well on the pace. Amazing Hours up and gone. I think it's going to be a fairly easy victory for him should he not make a mistake. But looking at the current sort of circumstances here, with Tazar directly ahead, massive gap behind, Ranger Oz directly ahead of Tazar, and Ridwan maybe a little bit further up the road from Ranger Oz than Ranger Oz is to Tazar, but still, they are all in slipstream, so this is potentially looking to be a 4-way fight for 3rd position, which is why it's so important for myself and Tazar, who are currently at the back, to not get interlocked in a battle, because we'll quite quickly fall off the back of Ranger Oz and Ridwan, therefore relinquishing any chance at potentially getting 3rd or 4th position for either of us in this race. So it's really just a matter of what positions do you think are possible, and I honestly think a 3rd position is possible for either myself or Tazar. So I do have to be very careful not to fight with Tazar, because as soon as I start fighting, that basically will just sort of confirm, it will seal the envelope on the fact that I could get 3rd position. So basically, if you begin to fight for a position, you're basically accepting that there's going to be no real possibility, there's not going to be no real loss in engaging in that battle, because you don't. If you end up losing 3rd thanks to fighting a car for 5th, it's going to be very difficult to make 3rd place back up. So that's basically the story of working together and having this little bit of a break in action in the race, having driven around in this little bit of a queue. So 4 cars basically nose to tail, not quite nose to tail, but you know, with sensible gaps in between. It's given me a good opportunity to kind of explain why working together is very important in not only this race, but in a lot of these no-stop races in general. A lot of the time in a race with a pit stop, you can pit in earlier, so I could pit in maybe 1 lap early and perhaps jump Tazar and get that overtake done that way in the pit stop, but because there's no pit stop in this race, it's so important to try and remain close to your other competitors to try and get overtakes done, and make sure you get them done at the right parts of the track so you don't lose too much time and lose the chances of any higher positions. But anyway, finishing up lap 3, we're going to focus back on this battle a little bit. So, as you can see, Ranger Oz has caught up to the back of Ridwan, Noodles has extended the gap, so I think that's 1st and 2nd done and dusted, and Ranger Oz tends to be a driver that likes to sort of engage in a battle when he needs to. Or maybe not even engage in a battle, really, maybe just, he will try and overtake when the circumstances present themselves. He may not necessarily think, well, I'm just going to bump draft Ridwan for a good 3 laps or so. It's not really in Ranger Oz's best interest at this particular stage, because the best Ranger Oz can probably muster in this circumstance is, once again, 3rd position. There's no way I would expect Ranger Oz to be able to catch up to the back of Noodles. But coming on to lap 4, we are catching up to Tazar. We've managed to catch up to Tazar, having set a very good lap in lap 3 at 2:36.4, which is a fairly decent race pace. Moving back over to the left because I want Tazar to know that I don't want him to defend. I don't want to have to lose time behind Tazar. I want to work together because Ranger Oz and Ridwan are just there, and you can see flash the hazards from Tazar, which just lets me know that he understands the bump draft, or the reason why I bump drafted there. So we're just going to be working together the best we can, trying to get up the hill in towards this flat out section, which is no longer flat out on these harder tyres. But it's all good. So working together with Tazar involves bump drafting, sort of not really putting my car in a position where a move could be possible, like not really being an offensive attacking in an offensive attacking position. That's really, really important because I don't want Tazar to begin to defend. And with Ranger Oz and Ridwan driving very close to one another, it really just opens the door for Tazar and I to be able to capitalise on any time losses they may make by being engaged in a battle. We get a little bit of a poor downhill section. We I think we went slightly too deep into turn 13 or turn 14 and ran into the back of Tazar, and it's just put us off the back a little bit, but it gives us a little bit of a distance behind to get a very nice slipstream run down Conrod Straight. So as long as we make all our gear changes correctly and don't sort of hit the limiter or anything, we will be able to gain quite a bit down this straight, or gain a lot of speed rather. Ranger Oz and Ridwan side by side, heading down through the chase, heading down through turn 20. That's going to be a very, very tall order to get both cars through there cleanly, and they managed to get it done. Ridwan down the inside of Ranger Oz at the next corner. Ranger Oz looking for the switchback as Ridwan has to take half his car onto the grass because he's had to leave space. But look at that, side by side, heading down towards the final corner. They're losing time very, very quickly because they're now much bigger than they were before. Ranger Oz heading down the inside at the final corner. Tazar is now right on the back of Ridwan. Look at that. They went side by side for 2 or 3 corners, and they've now lost about half a second. It just goes to show just how easy it is to lose time if you engage in a battle, and that's why it's so important. Tazar up the inside of Ridwan, perhaps capitalising on Ridwan getting a little bit of a poor run. And now I'm working together with Tazar. I know that we can both get ahead of Ridwan and stay ahead if we play our cards right. So I'm going to be bump drafting Tazar up the mountain straight. I have to be careful that Ridwan doesn't get licks of slipstream off the edge of Tazar's car. So I'm going to try and bump draft to get both cars ahead of Ridwan into the braking zone for turn 2. We almost get it done, but Ridwan just had a slight overlap on me and run slightly deep and has given me a little bit of a bump, and I've hit the barrier on the exit of turn 2. And that's just put me right off the back. I think what happened there is Ridwan tried to take the corner a little bit tight and ended up clattering the inside curb, which is a quite high curb to be fair. So I think he's just made a little bit of a mistake there. Clattering the curb, it's pushed the car out a little bit wider than perhaps we needed, and I've ended up into the barrier because the cars are so on edge grip-wise. You're really using your maximum grip, really, especially on these slippery tyres, that even a slight bump can just step the car over the edge of what grip there is to offer from the tyres, and it's just enough to send me wide. It took a little bit to catch back up. You can see lap 5 was a slow lap of 2:39.666, and it's taken all the way over a lap basically, so to catch back up to the back of this pack. Obviously the 3 of them were finding quite hard. Ranger Oz now finds himself behind Ridwan with Tazar at the head of the field. However, I really wish I was more in Ridwan's position, because still at this stage in the race, with Tazar in 3rd and myself in 4th, I probably would have honestly taken that as a race result, so I may have just worked with Tazar for the entire remainder of the race. But unfortunately for me, having come off the back of that little bit of an incident with Ridwan, I'm now nowhere near Tazar, and he's really got no he's got no rear gunner to try and fend off either Ridwan or Ranger Oz. We make up a load of ground through the chase, Ranger Oz and Ridwan not taking the best of runs through there, so we end up running into the back of Ranger Oz, looking around the outside of the last corner, sorry, and it is a possible move. Tazar moving over to the left just opens up the outside for me. Do I get this car ahead of Tazar? Perhaps I should have moved a little bit over to the left here, but I think that gap closes in. I've got 2 cars up the inside. Let's see if we can get through here cleanly. We're just getting lent on a little bit by Ranger Oz, and we get shuffled onto the edge of the track, and we don't get the good enough exit. And that was honestly a pretty risky move to try and do, but at that point bump drafting Tazar would have just lost all my speed, so it really wasn't worth it. It was honestly quicker for me to jump ahead, and they're all following each other to the inside. I don't really want too much to do with this 3-way battle here. I just want to capitalise on a mistake, if any are made. Tazar looking up the inside of Ranger Oz, who runs wide through turn 2, and that just gives Tazar a look in around the outside of turn 3 with the exit of turn 2 here, and which will be the outside of turn 3, but Ranger Oz gets the better run up the hill, so we once again fall line astern, heading up towards through the cutting, trying to get on the power as best we can. A little bit of oversteer on the exit there, but we do thankfully sort ourselves up back into a single file line for all this flat out section, all this non-overtaking section here. Basically from turn 3 all the way up until Forest Elbow, there's really no overtaking opportunities. It's really just a matter of running nose to tail as close as possible and trying to put yourself in the best position possible for a slipstream move down Conrod Straight. But we find ourselves in this formation: Ridwan, Ranger Oz, Tazar, myself, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th respectively, still trying to make inroads on these 3rd and 4th positions. I know myself and Tazar can get up into 3rd and 4th. I know that we can finish in those positions, and I honestly would expect Tazar to finish 3rd and myself and finish 4th if we can indeed get those positions done, less any errors from Tazar that may gift me 3rd. But in this particular circumstance, I get a very poor exit out of Forest Elbow, and it gives me a massive gap up to Tazar, but that honestly does not really bother me too much. I'm still in the slipstream, and there's still quite a fair way of the race to go, about 5 minutes or so left of the race, even more, 5 or 6 minutes so left of the race. And even if I'm this far back, so that's quite a gap, about half a second, as we're running in towards the chase. On the exit here, I had a massive overspeed on Tazar, and I was just looking on that little bit of a gap that he left coming through the final part of the chase there, turn 22, and the gap just closed about as quickly as I was heading into it, and it really just pinched me up. There was really not much I could do there. I just had the overspeed, and I didn't want to have to lose all that speed. It would have been quicker for me to jump ahead of Tazar, and then he slipstream off the back of me to keep close to Ridwan and Ranger, but unfortunately for me, that gap just closed. There was no space for me left by the time I actually got there, and I fell off the back of the pack all the way up until the end of lap 8. I was a little bit concerned about Fast Phil behind, who managed to get about 8 tenths behind me at one stage, but thankfully I was just able to recover myself, and I was just able to sort of get back in my rhythm just quick enough so that Fast Phil does not also invite himself on this battle, because the last thing I want is for a 4-way battle to turn into a 5-way battle, because it very, very quickly gets very messy, and the chances of a crash just increase tenfold. Maybe not quite tenfold, but I just liked the way that sounded in my head before I said it. Ridwan makes a mistake getting shuffled up on the exit of turn 2 in a similar fashion to what happened to me down on lap 5, and I've now found myself in 6th. Tazar in 4th, and Ridwan is sort of looking quite slow at this part of the track now. I'm right on the back of him, but unfortunately for me, we're coming up towards the whole section of the track where there's no overtaking. The best opportunity I have is to dip down the inside of the braking zone into the S's on Brock Skyline, but that does rely on Ridwan making an error on the exit of McPhillamy Park, but we don't quite get the best of runs through that flat out section. It just gives myself a bit of a gap to Ridwan, who doesn't make a mistake on McPhillamy Park, so it doesn't give me an opportunity to look down the inside. He hits the inside wall, as do I, but not quite to the extent to which Ridwan did, but as we're coming down towards the S's, basically what I'm looking for now, there's a bit of a gap to Tazar from Ridwan, so I know that Ridwan is not going to have the best slipstream down the straight. I've got to try and set myself up in a very good position to try and get a good launch out of Forest Elbow here, but I get on the power too early and graze the wall on the exit. Such a crucial mistake, and it's at this level, at the sort of top, at the podium paying positions of top split in this series, it's little tiny mistakes like that that can just prove to be a really, really big factor in determining whether you know, where you finish. Because I made that tiny mistake just grazing the wall on the exit of Forest Elbow, and it's now just put me right off the back of Ridwan at the crucial part of the race, and this continues to be a problem for me. I'm not as consistent. I don't find myself to be as consistent as any of these other drivers. I find it really difficult to try and hold a very quick pace that these other drivers can, and at this stage, being 9 tenths off the back of the 3 up ahead, the last thing I can possibly hope for is a penalty from either 3 of them, and that's not quite going to happen as we come up towards the line. So unfortunately for me, it is going to be a 6th. It's going to be a P4 for Tazar, so that's perhaps a little bit better than what it was looking at in the earlier stages of the race, where we were all fighting, and Tazar and I found ourselves in 5th and 6th. Tazar managed to get a 4th. I would have preferred Tazar to be in 3rd and myself in 4th, but you know, you can't always get what you want.
As the philosopher Jagger once said, you can't always get what you want.
And at the end of the day, the number of points available for the 6th position finish, 240, it's my personal best for the current season, so I can really thank a very nice qualifying to get myself up into that battle at least. Imagine if I had a poor qualifying, that really would have put me a lot further back in the field and would have made those 240 points a very, very difficult achievement. But we are going to move on. Remember that incident we had at turn 1 with Schnickerman? Well, we're now going to have a look at the replay, and it's so awkward, man, because we're straight on board with me in chase cam, and yeah, it's just, he just loops it around on the exit, and we're going to have a look from his perspective, because this, I was looking at this during editing, and I felt awful, because we all hit the brakes, and I just moved to the outside after I hit the brakes. Really does look like I'm moving the braking, doesn't it? And then he's trying to get onto the power to try and recover that little bit of a time loss, and he just loops it on the grass. There's not really much else. He can do in that stage, and then from his nose cam, I just run him out of road. I think the last question we have here is, was he alongside enough to sort of warrant me giving him space? But we'll have a look from this perspective here. Down there, he's about halfway alongside. It's really, really awkward. I apologised to him in the lobby afterwards, and he actually sent me a message saying, like, mate, don't worry about it, man. I put my car in a poor position. I know, and I accept that, but it's just, I really look like I move in the braking zone, and that's a really big no-no. It was just so awkward, because there were so many things you have to think about on lap 1. You've got cold tyres. I was on hard tyres, having just done quality on soft, so very, very significant grip difference there. I was in close quarters with Ranger, and I was almost looking like I was going to run into the back of Ranger, so I moved to the right to try and avoid him. But at that particular stage, Schnickerman had the run down the outside, and perhaps seeing that gap, Schnickerman seeing that gap on the outside when myself and Ranger Oz were nose to tail sort of in the middle of the track, he perhaps thought, oh look, there's an opportunity here, and then I just move out because I brake too late and just run Schnickerman out of road. And he does end up looping it. I feel like he could have saved it, but in the particular race situation, that quick thinking can be very difficult to make the correct decision in a split second. We all know split second decisions in motor racing are very, very important. And if you make the slight wrong one, it can end up like that. And I think in that particular case, I was thinking about everything except my radar. I didn't see Schnickerman coming down the outside, so it looked like he was ran out of road. He thinks it's his fault. I think it's my fault. You know, I think that's one of the best situations to find yourself in when you do have an incident with another driver. He's adamant that it's fine, not to worry about it, but I still don't like that it really, really does look like I'm moving the braking zone. It really does look like I'm a bit of an idiot in that particular case. But we do have to move on. There was no penalty awarded, and you know, I think maybe at this stage we do begin to think about, like, maybe should I have slowed down? He fell all the way to the back, so that would have been my race done. But on the other hand, it shouldn't be my job to penalise myself. It should be the game's job to award me a penalty where it's due, and it didn't in that particular case. But again, whose fault was it? Schnickerman thinks it's his, I think it's mine, but at the end of the day, we're not mad at each other, and we do have to move on. We do have to celebrate the 240 points that I managed to bring home. Now, the race could have been a lot more. 3rd and 4th was on the cards for myself and Tazar, but unfortunately some close racing and some little bits of contact here and there and some mistakes creeping in just meant that I was not able to finish any better than 6th. But again, 240 points for 6th is a very good position, and that finishes me up in 7th in the championship. So I will take it. A top 10 was the result, so I will take a 7th any day of the week. But that's it. That's Toyota Gazoo Racing GT Cup for 2021 done and dusted. Amazing Hour, of course, has qualified himself for the online finals, so that will be a very interesting watch once we get to that towards the end of the year. But that rounds everything up for this video today, so that means that is it from me. So do hit the like button if you enjoyed, and do subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me. Do leave a comment as well. Questions, comments, and constructive criticism, as always, very much appreciated. But that's going to be the end of this one today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.